Hey, Roger Martin here from Billings, Montana. Health issues are becoming more and more a problem with cancer and with heart disease and with just the cost of living uh, for insurance. But this is a series on immune problems, and it's called Betrayal.
Betrayal that you worked on for over a year and a half. And we're going to jump right into this because we've now had over 500,000 people view the videos, gain some knowledge and some information, but there are many who don't know anything about it. And I was most struck when I first found out about it by the title, Betrayal. That's a big word, betrayal.
Yes.
So
Yes.
before we go any further, could you share with everyone why betrayal?
Well, the full title is Betrayal, the Autoimmune Disease Secret They're Not Telling You.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happens is that people that watch the series, they get a big aha that all of this science has been out there for years. And most of our medical doctors have never seen it because they're busy reading the research studies in their area of expertise. And in the world of autoimmunity, you know, in the 1950s, there was a renegade group of researchers that discovered that if you pinprick on the back, and if you take a little needle and you dip it in a little bit of peaches, and then you pinprick on the back, if that person gets a red circle around that pinprick, they probably have a problem with peaches.
Mm-hmm.
And when they started to write the first papers on this, the traditional doctors, the medical doctors said, what kind of nonsense is this? And, you know, that's just hogwash. And these guys were considered renegades. But then some medical doctors decided to try this, or they read it and they said, oh, that makes sense to me. I'm going to try it. And they tried it and they found that they were able to help patients where nothing they had done to that point yet had helped. And those doctors, more of them came along. They started doing this a little bit more. Laboratory opened up that offered this service and more doctors. But these doctors that were using that service and talking about it were considered renegades, nutcases, kooks, outside the usual and customary. But they kept getting results. And the result was by the late 50s, early 60s, there was an entire discipline that developed within medicine on this topic. They're called allergists, right? There is no such thing as allergists before these renegades started experimenting with this. It wasn't until 1988 that there was a board certification in oncology. So what? Yeah, no, before 1988, there were no specialists for cancer that were recognized by the medical associations. It was just 1988. The discipline of geriatrics, medicine specifically for elders, which is very different than pediatrics, right? That just came out after 2000. The board certifications just came out. So
Right.
as our knowledge expands, the track record is first it's the ones that are categorized as nutcases. Then more people dip the toe in the water and see they're helping some patients, and then it moves on. Well, the world has just opened up to a new discipline just this year. It's being recognized, and it's called autoimmunologists, which is a specialty in the world of immunology. There were no autoimmunologists 3 years.
Okay, autoimmunologist. Immunology, the ability for the body to uh, defend itself against various attacks, whether it be virus, bacterial infections, whatever. Immunology should have been on the forefront of this a long time ago, but it has not been pushed to the forefront yet, but it will be.
Years ago. There were immunologists, but not autoimmunologists. So it's because there's so much science now that says when your immune system is going after your own body, that's autoimmunity.
Okay, so I stand corrected. Autoimmunity, when your own immune system is screwed up and it's going after your own body and being destructive to your own body, that's autoimmunology. Okay, so I stand corrected.
When that's happening, and that is so prevalent, and we'll talk about the prevalence of it, It's so prevalent, and you make such a difference in the person's life when you look through those glasses as part of your evaluation of why a patient doesn't feel well.
Mm-hmm. So that's why it's almost like we've been betrayed by the lack of information that's out there, and now we need to fix that and overcome this betrayal.
We've been betrayed by the lack of acceptance of the information that's out there. The information's been out there, but the traditionalists say, well, that's nutcase stuff. That doesn't make... Of course you can reverse rheumatoid arthritis or MS or lupus sometimes. Of course you can. There are many cases, just read the literature, of patient after patient after patient after patient that turned around their diseases when you look through this lens of why is my immune system attacking my own body? So it's not that the information hasn't been there. The betrayal is that the rigidity of the profession has said, that's nonsense, that doesn't work. But now there's a whole field that's just come out called autoimmunologists.
And so what we're saying here is that, wait, we want to put an end to this rigidity that is causing people to suffer. Because if there are remedies out there, if there are things that can really help people feel better, reverse a condition or whatever, that needs to be made available to people, because that's what we're supposed to be doing, is helping others.
That's exactly right. And when you've watched the series and you go to your doctor and you talk about what you learn, if your doctor's like this and says that's nonsense, then find another doctor to bring onto your healthcare team. You don't fire that person because maybe they're a great internist or a great general practitioner, but they just don't know about this field. So you find another practitioner that will say, you know, I don't know too much about it, but it makes sense to me. Let's look into it. And or you find an autoimmunologist. You find someone that's really dove into this. And we talk about in the series, where do you find these doctors? And they're functional medicine doctors for the most part.
So let's break this down for the person who's watching this, and you know what, a refresher.
So they're looking for autoimmune deficiencies, body going against itself. Let's speed this up. These guys are a little lengthy.
Doctors who are using the expert's advice, and then the patients who are following what the doctors say, talking about how they reverse their disease. So there's no one answer, but the category answer, the big kahuna answer, is that it's our environment. Anything from the outside world.
So this environment, naturopaths have been talking about this for decades, that soaps, detergents, pesticides, herbicides, colognes, perfumes, makeup, chemicals, house sprays, house paints, all these chemicals in the house. They've been talking about this for decades. And we're now just getting there in the medical establishment. A little late.
Autoimmune thyroid disease. You've killed off so many cells, now the doctor just wants to give you thyroid hormone to help you feel better, and you feel better when you take the drugs. But the mechanism is still going on, killing off more cells, because you haven't addressed why do you have elevated thyroid antibodies or elevated myelin, which is the saran wrap around your nerves. And when you have elevated myelin antibodies like I had, that's the mechanism of MS. That's how you get MS. But you get it eventually. You know, right. You don't.
So if they can get to these warning signs to the right people early enough, you can prevent a lot of this stuff, I think. Let's go on. I'm going to have to look at his series. I recommend that you do too, because this is a little late. Naturopaths and other people have been working on this for a while.
Now you make antibodies to the intestinal cell, and now you get that whole mechanism, and now you eventually can develop the autoimmune disease of your gut, which can be Crohn's or colitis, ulcerative colitis, celiac disease, if it's wheat.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So in essence, what the crazy thing is, the body is actually doing what it's supposed to do.
Exactly.
Get rid of the bad stuff, but it's also causing damage in the process that then causes the body to have to make more armed forces to get rid of the damaged cells that shouldn't have been damaged in the first place if it weren't for the red dye going into the system.
You know, we got over 18,000 comments when we first launched Betrayal. And a common question was, Why does it cause this damage, Doc? If our immune system is there to protect us and is from our ancestors, people that really would wrestle with this idea, they were asking about it. And the reason is your ancestors weren't designed to deal with red dye number 3.
Right.
What comes out of the mountains that our ancestors were drinking? It wasn't Coca-Cola, right? And there's no orange juice coming out of the mountain streams of orange juice. There's oranges. Right?
Right.
So all of the stuff that we drink, if you just walk down the shelves of the supermarket and look at the labels of what people are buying and drinking, our ancestors don't have an immune system to protect us from that. And that red dye number 3 in this example binds onto a cell. Your immune system says, whoa, that's a neoepitope. I need to get rid of that thing, whatever that is. I got to get rid of that. And the result is you start that whole inflammatory cascade. That's where
Red dye 3, it's actually, all these bright dyes are actually petroleum dyes, and they're all carcinogenic. And it may go onto the cell, like he says, and cause this immune problem. Like he says, I have no doubt about it. But it is carcinogenic, and it is not natural. It is a petroleum-based carcinogenic dye.
disease comes from for so many people.
And so the thing.
Let's get on with this.
But, Doc, I'm sleeping better, or my energy's up, or my joint pains are less, and they're not as often, or you'll notice that your child is doing better in school. Their brain's working better. So many parents have come to us whose kids were diagnosed with attention deficit, and they say, the teacher said the new drugs we're giving our child are working really well. And then we tell them, we're not giving them any drugs. We're just changing their diet. And then the teacher says, oh, I've heard about that. I've heard that can happen. Right? So you hear that many times from parents. So when people learn where the environmental exposures are coming from, this is
key. We are not training people to not eat better. We're not training people to watch the chemicals, their detergents, their pesticides, herbicides, their cleaning agents, their soaps and shampoos, detergents, body deodorant, their sprays that they put on for perfumes and other things. A lot of these makeup, a lot of these things have very toxic side effects in them, and our body was never meant to deal with this much crap in the environment. He's absolutely right in that area. Let's get on with this.
A healthcare institution, but within 2 years, the Functional Medicine Center at Cleveland Clinic is now the entire second floor of the main building of Cleveland Clinic, and there's a 2,000 patient waiting list. Because they got it, and the results are so clear. So Mark is carrying that message out in the world, and he does it so well. But I start with him. He's the first one you hear, and he talks about what is autoimmunity. And he says autoimmunity is your immune system. It's trying to protect you, but it attacks yourself. So really, what people need to learn of, and this is Mark's language, what people need to learn is, what is it that's pissed off your immune system? and you say, wow, that just makes perfect sense, because it's always inflammation, it's always fire. Well, where did it come from? Where's the gasoline coming from that's causing?
So we need to rethink this stuff totally, fully. We are poisoning ourselves with toxins, with chemicals, with sprays, with a lot of things we'd never think about. Paints, petroleum products, asbestos, even things that you wouldn't think. Dyes, not only in our diet, but stuff in our carpets or in our sheets or in our bedspreads, stuff that we dry with. It sounds crazy. Stuff that we use every day, toothpaste, cleaning agents, perfumes, shampoos, toiletries, all types of cleaning stuffs, carpet cleaners, cleaners that are in our cabinets. This stuff all has chemicals in it that are just beating the hell out of our immune system and causing our immune system to go berserk and attack our body because it was not meant to handle all these chemical toxins. And we haven't even talked about food and diet and processed crap that we get, our pesticides or herbicides in our foods. I haven't even talked about that spectrum. That too. This is all related. And if you think it isn't, you're sleeping.
And I have their test results. I say, good news. You're a mess. You're a mess. And they go look at me like this. I say, but all of this is correctable. That's really good news. We found out why you.
So they're now getting tests that they need, and they're finding out what's correctable, what isn't. This is where medicine needed to be 20 or 30 years ago. They're that far behind in that area. But they're going to be forced to look at this stuff. He talks about the Cleveland Clinic, that whole second floor is filled up with, and they have a waiting list. It's because people are catching on and they know that these things are working, the results are working, and they need this help. Again, this is Roger Martin from Billings, Montana. Look at Betrayal in the series. Put the link in with this movie and video. And you want your health back, you got to work with what your body's fighting and help it and support it so it doesn't have to fight all these environmental toxins, poisons, chemicals, pollutants, things that are just stressing it out and causing it to go after your own body. Because it's made to take care of this stuff, but not at this quantity, not at this much. And you need to understand it. Again, this is Roger Martin from Billings, Montana. Good day.